So you mentioned that you were moving into another startup and you're not going to be using Julia, you're going to be building a language in Julia.
More or less, yes. That's a big statement. Not me personally, but the whole team.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
The company is called RelationalAI, and this company is actually one of the earliest companies that took on and said, like, Julia is going to be our like, we're going to use Julia. And I think they started around the time Julia 1.0 was released, like maybe a little earlier. But that was like a bold move, right? Like to say, well, we're just gonna pick up, like, Julia is gonna be our language. And what they're doing is basically they're building a knowledge graph management system. And it's pretty cool because now the more you hear about knowledge graphs and see knowledge graphs in the wild, you realize, well, wait, knowledge graphs make so much sense. Why haven't we been using them since before? And quick examples are, for instance, like when you type on Google like a certain search query, and then you have this like box on the very right where like you have a brief summary of this person or whoever, like the movie or something you've searched. What happened there is that Google basically collected this data from different types of different resources. And what RelationalAI wants to do is to be able to give this tool a knowledge graph management system to not just big companies being able to do this. They want to be able to give it to any company that, say, they used to do database type of things on their data. They want to be able to do them also in a knowledge graph fashion. And yeah, basically what we will be doing is working with knowledge graphs and building a programming language on top of Julia that this basically, like, you will write in the programming language that RelationalAI will produce, and then the code will get basically compiled to machine code, just because we're using Julia as an under the hood, and then Julia just does everything for us. So it's a big leverage to use in this scenario, and it will make things so much faster. And also the language itself will be very easy to write. So like using Julia in this case is actually very, very smart.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it seems like the longer that we talk about Julia, the more I could see that you're kind of in love with the base abstractions and the core features that it provides. So
Absolutely.
what would you say are the 2 or 3 features that are the most important to you in Julia and that resonate with you the most?
Yeah, I see what you did here. You asked 2 or 3 so that I don't say multiple dispatch, and then that's my answer. You want more answers.
Right. I already have 3 or 4 people saying that, right?
Okay, I'll skip the multiple dispatch. But yeah, multiple dispatch is a big one.
Yeah, you're required to say that in this community or you're out, right? You're kicked out.
Yeah, other things. So I think I really like so many things. I like so many things about Julia. I think I really like this idea of composability, where basically like the package ecosystem in Julia is just amazing. First of all, things talk to each other very fluidly and very smoothly. And sometimes I'd be coding something and try something out just to try it, and it's like, oh, it works. That's super cool. You know, how often does that happen in any other language that I've used in the past? It feels like things just work. So I really love the package ecosystem, how it talks to each other packages talk to each other very smoothly and interact very fluidly without too much work on the user aspect. I think I'm kind of biased now that I'm joining RelationalAI, but now that I'm joining RelationalAI, I realize how this use case of Julia basically providing the infrastructure for building other programming languages or other tools where you can use Julia under that. So like if you look at jump.jl, for instance, the syntax in jump.jl isn't exactly like 100% Julia syntax, but like you're basically building something on top of Julia that allows you to provide like an entire different ecosystem for something else. And like Jump is an example in like knowledge graph management, or even there's like the probabilistic programming languages. Yeah, I think this is a really cool feature. And I think it funnels back to the idea that Julia's main thing that it's provided for the community and the broader like computer scientists and other scientists and not just computer science is that it actually made the gap between developing and using so much narrower. So like being a package developer and being a user of Julia, the gap is so much narrower than in other programming languages, like in Python, like dealing with a package system, like, I don't know, it's just annoying. So yeah.
Yeah. So it feels right to you. I mean, it's kind of like when I was in the Smalltalk ecosystem, it's everything is in the, is done with the Smalltalk image, right? So like in the Julia package manager, you pull this piece in, then you pull that piece in, you say, okay, well now I have my greater environment. Now let's build the environment that only my little package is going to use. So you just start folding things in.
Yeah.
You say, hey, bake this down in a way that's repeatable for me. Yeah, that's really cool. Is there anything that you want to tell them about learning Julia?
Yeah. So I think I would tell them, first of all, to not be afraid to try out Julia. I know trying something new for the first time ever is kind of sometimes intimidating or scary, but I think I might be biased saying the Julia community is a wonderful community, but there's some truth to it. There's certainly some truth to it, big truth to it, I think. If you join the Julia community and you ask a question on whether Slack or whether on Discourse or even on Twitter, to be honest, like you get an answer in, I don't want to say seconds, not to be extreme, but maybe minutes. Often, or Stack Overflow actually, often the community is very helpful and very supportive. And that's honestly a big reason why a lot of people, like when I joined, for instance, my very first interactions were on the internet with these Julia people, but then I went to JuliaCon, and then you go to JuliaCon and you're like, oh wow, like JuliaCon is like the adult version of this summer camp you would go to as a teenager. And then at the end of the summer camp, you're like, oh no, it's ending. I'm gonna have to say goodbye to all these wonderful people. So like JuliaCon is the adult version of that, honestly. So once you meet the community, once you meet the people, you're just like, oh my God, this community has some really amazing people. So I would say to whoever wants to start learning Julia, just count on that, like use that, leverage that. People will be helpful. People will be there for you if you ask questions. So yeah, don't be afraid to give it a try.
So I can tell that a language is great or an abstraction is right by how teachable it is. So what makes Julia so teachable?
Wow, cool question. So I think Julia is very user-friendly, to be honest. I think once you get behind just like some of the very earliest syntax and like just understanding maybe how to write the basic things, functions, for loops, blah, blah, blah. It becomes very user-friendly and intuitive. And that's intuition here is probably the key thing, where sometimes I would try and write something and like, I wouldn't remember what exactly the keyword for that is, but then I would try, like before I look it up online, I just would try something and then it just works. And this happens very often where try something intuitively as it makes sense and it actually works. And that's why I think if you're teaching Julia, it makes a lot of things easier from a teacher perspective, because you don't have to justify way too many things. You're like, this is how you use this feature or components, and it feels like it just makes sense. So I think that's the biggest reason why I think Julia is easy to teach. It's really intuitive.
Thanks for spending the time with me.
It was really, really fun talking to you.
Fun for me as well. Thank you so much.